Good morning and welcome, everyone. We will start our lecture at 2 minutes after the top of the hour. Again, good morning and welcome. We're glad to have you. 2 minutes after the top of the hour. Morning, everyone, and welcome. We will begin our session at 2 minutes after the top of the hour. So you still have time to get coffee and take a break. Again, we'll start lecture 2 minutes after the top of the hour. Welcome. Again, for those of you that have just joined, welcome. We're glad to have you. We will start this session at 2 minutes after the top of the hour. So again, you still have time to get coffee and stretch and breathe. We're glad to have you. Welcome. 2 minutes after the top of the hour. Again, for those of you that just joined us, we're glad to have you. Welcome. We will start our lecture at about 2 minutes after the top of the hour. So again, you still have a couple more minutes. We'll allow others to join us. We're glad to have you. Welcome. 2 minutes after the top of the hour is when we'll get started.
Hello.
Good morning and welcome. For those of you that just joined, again, we'll start our lecture at 2 minutes after the top of the hour. So another couple minutes you have. We're going to allow others to join us. So again, welcome. We're glad to have you. 2 minutes after the top of the hour. Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning and welcome. We're allowing others to join us. We'll start in about another minute.
Good morning. Good evening.
Good morning. Good morning and welcome. Welcome. We'll get started in another minute or so. We'll allow others to join us. We're glad to have you. You can put your environments on mute. Thank you. Some of you have let us Some of you have let us know where you're calling in from in the chat. Thank you for sharing. All right, let's go ahead and get started, everyone. Welcome again, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening, calling wherever you're calling in from. My name is Odell Gordon. I am a technical trainer here at Sumo Logic. I've been in IT for about 30 plus years now. I've played several roles in IT: database administrator, database designer, DevOps, and of course, a technical trainer. I love training, so my last 15 to 20 years has been mostly in education and training. I'm calling in from the Midwest here in the US. I'm actually calling in from Illinois. We have overcast, supposed to get some rain. Hopefully you're somewhere comfortable and pleasant as well. I noticed in the chat that a few of you are put in there, some Atlanta, Boston, Seattle, India, New York City. Oh, good. Welcome all of you. Mexico, glad to have you. I am joined by the training manager here at Sumo Logic. And Josh, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah, thanks, Odell. Welcome everybody to today's session. We have a great class for you that's going to go over the fundamentals of Sumo, and Odell's going to do a great job going through it. For today's session, I'll be handling the chat. So if there's any questions or comments or feedback or what have you, post it in the chat and I'll help answer. So thanks everybody, and let's go, Odell.
All right. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. All right. As Josh mentioned, please, if you have any questions or concerns or anything, please put them in the chat and we'll get to them as quickly as possible. So again, you're joining us for the Sumo Logic's Generalist, the fundamental certification, okay? In this certification session, you and I will give you an overview of the Sumo Logic environment. So we'll give you that 500-foot overview. Then I will do a demonstration of monitoring and troubleshooting. Then you and I will log into Sumo Logic's training environment. And then you and I will view all the collected data that's out there. We'll search, we'll parse, and we'll analyze through our data, where we can, through that analysis, identify trends, and we'll analyze any critical events that we have. We'll also create and modify dashboards, as well as create an alert, okay? And then finally, after the 2-hour labs and lecture session, you will have the opportunity to take the certification test, okay? It's 60 minutes. Okay, once you pass the certification test, because you're going to pass it, I got confidence in you. Once you pass it, we want to reward you. So I will post up this link here, this link form for you to complete, so we can send you a $15 Uber Eats voucher. Okay, we want to show you our appreciation for you taking this course. So you can't beat it, you know? All right. I'm going to go ahead and save some bandwidth and turn off my video so you can, 1, focus on the lecture, and 2, focus on the slides, okay? All right, so how does Sumo Logic help me, okay? Now, first of all, I want you to kind of let me lean on your imagination for a moment. As I mentioned, way back in my career, I played DevOps roles. So I would come into the operational center, look for the Unix machine, log in, look for the logs, find the logs, and then I would issue grep commands, which are searching through those logs. So that was more of a manual process when I was in DevOps, okay? Now, had I been fortunate enough to have been introduced to Sumo Logic's continuous intelligence platform, we could all have built an operational intelligence dashboard. So what you're seeing at the top of the screen here is 4 examples of dashboards that can be created in our continuous intelligence platform. So as I was mentioning with my story here, had I had the continuous intelligence platform way back in my DevOps days, I could have built a dashboard that would allow me to glean information about my operational environment. For example, are my systems all up and running? I could find out the health of my systems. So I can glean all that information from an operational dashboard. Another example is a security dashboard here. And here's where we can glean information if we wanted to find out if someone had the root user access. We could find out where users are logging in from around the world to our intranet, okay? So again, we can find out from a security perspective that type of information. Our users logging in from multiple locations simultaneously, okay? So again, we're discussing dashboards that can be created in the continuous intelligence platform, and we're giving you examples of some real world scenarios. From a business intelligence perspective, we could build a dashboard. Maybe we would build a business intelligence dashboard to find out we issued a marketing campaign. We want to find out how successful it was or not. We can glean that information from a business intelligence dashboard. Maybe we want to find out, what are our customers ordering? What web pages are they frequently using or actually addressing? So again, we can find out all of that type of information from a business intelligence dashboard. And then finally, from a global perspective, we can find out and observe our data worldwide, comparing it to other companies. So again, that's a global perspective. These are 4 examples of dashboards that you can create within our tool. Now, what do we use those what's the basis of those dashboards? What's the data? It's your data. So if your data is coming from apps or cloud systems or SaaS services or any mobile devices, again, your logs, your metrics, all of that machine data, we're going to collect it and use it to help you build those dashboards, to glean that type of information. Now, what do we offer? We offer a multi-tenancy environment. Security is priority number 1. One of our core values is we're in it with our customers from beginning to end, okay? So again, we're a multi-tenancy environment. If you need to grow out or grow up or expand, or maybe you need to downsize, contract, or remove, we're elastic. We're scalable. So we'll meet your growth or your decline. We'll meet it for you. You're going to see some machine learning and some advanced analytics features that I'm going to demonstrate, and we'll see going through our labs. Some companies like to incorporate Sumo Logic with other parts of their code, so they use APIs, application programming interfaces, okay? And then finally, over to the right, you'll see our attestments, the flyout window over to the right. Those are some of our attestments. And as I mentioned, we take security priority number 1. You're seeing that we're SOC 2 certified, FedRAMP certified, HIPAA certified. Again, our certifications are up to date and we take them seriously. And then lastly, your people. And what we mean by this is we want to achieve, and we want you to be able to achieve, continuous collaboration across all lines of your business. You got a single source to facilitate and collaborate and share decision making. So again, your people will be able to see the results that are found as well. So the big takeaway from this screenshot here is, 1, you can build dashboards within our tool. 2, we're going to utilize your logs and your metrics, your data. Okay. 3, we offer a whole slew of analytics for you to research and find and your issues or problems. And then finally, you'll be able to share it amongst all lines of your business. Now, what you're seeing on the screen now is a flow of monitoring and troubleshooting, okay? So when you think about it, you probably would want to be alerted if there's a situation, okay? What you're seeing on the left side of our screen here is you could set up alerts. We have the capability of setting up alerts to different alerting mechanisms. So if you guys are using PagerDuty or you're using Slack, or if you're using Azure functions, or if you need to create a webhook to another alerting system. All of that capability is within our tool, okay? So again, the first part of this process is being alerted. There's an issue, okay? Once we're alerted, then we want to look at our metrics to identify what's going on. Once we find out what's going on within our metrics, we'll then look at our logs and find out why it happened. So first I'm alerted, then I look at my metrics to find out what's going on, then I look at my logs and find out why it happened. What I'm about to do now is give you a demonstration to actually go through that flow, okay? And you can just watch, all right? So again, let's imagine that I work for a travel company, okay? And this travel company that I work for, again, they're in the business of making sure that you can book your hotels, you can book your actual your car rentals, you can book your plane tickets, etc. So we want that capability, okay? And as I mentioned, I work for a travel company. It's called Travel Logic. I'm going through a demonstration. So again, just bear with me. Again, I'm demonstrating the actual capabilities of monitoring and troubleshooting. So I'm logging into the CIP. You'll get the opportunity shortly. I'm just doing a demonstration. So imagine that, again, I am working for this Travel Logic company. Now, right now I'm in the CIP, and we set up dashboards within our CIP for our Travel Logic company. So what I'm doing is I'm going in our folder where we set up dashboards for our Travel Logic company. So I'm going into the production environment of my dashboards, and I'm going to go into my operations, and then I'm going to go into my system dashboard. So what this does, ladies and gentlemen, this dashboard has 12 panels on it. It allows me to monitor my environment, okay? Now, again, I'm going to continue to lean on your imagination, okay? When you're looking at our tool, I want you to keep, I use a lot of car analogies. I want you to think of a traffic light, okay? Green being good, red meaning there's a problem, yellow meaning there's a warning that we need to kind of keep a monitoring on. So you can see from this system dashboard, from my production Travel Logic environment, I have 12 panels. I'm looking at my reporting nodes. It looks good. My Redis issues, they look good. My VPC flow, my database, all the green, the CDN latency, all that looks good, okay? I do see that there's some elastic load balancing issues, but what really jumps out here is I see these checkout issues, job queue issues. Now think about it. We just came out of one of the largest travel times from the pandemic. There's tons of travelers. We don't want them to be bogged down trying to make booking using our system. So we found out that there's a problem, okay? Now, just to give you a little foundation here of what's going on, each one of these panels on this dashboard has an underlying query. Wait a minute, Odell, what do you mean? So underneath these panels, there's a query, okay? Once you build that query, you add the panel to a dashboard. You're going to see us go through that. I'm just giving you just a real big overview. But anyhow, so here I am trying to find out what's going on. I was alerted that there's some problems here from this dashboard. I want to look at my checkout services. One of the features within our continuous intelligence platform is that you'll have the ability to build drill features. So this, clicking on this dashboard panel right here will lead me to another set of dashboard panel. So we have that drill capability where you can go for an overall dashboard to a more succinct dashboard. And that's what I'm about to do now. I'm going to click on this dashboard panel right here, my checkout service. I see it has problems. It takes me to a more detailed dashboard panel. Okay, Odell, what are we doing here? I'm demonstrating monitoring and troubleshooting. I work for Travel Logic. I'm looking at the production environment. I looked at the overall dashboard. I clicked on one of the dashboard panels. It took me to a more detailed set of dashboards. Okay. Now, just to kind of go over our dashboards here, I can see bookings. Everything was good. I see the green, and then all there was problems. I can see over the last 7 days. I can see the error nodes. The latency has some spikes and peaks. I see my latency averages. There's some outliers here as well. I can also see my CPU and total memory. Okay. Now, another feature of our tool is you have the capability of being interactive with your dashboard panels. Well, what do you mean by that, Odell? Well, over to the right, I can see that there's a legend. If I wanted to hide all of my successes, I can click that off in my legend, and now I'm only seeing the failures. I can see it started giving me messages. Okay, so again, be aware that that capability is there for you. Now, the example I've just given you, I've gone through the actual tool, the actual CIP. Okay, now let me digress for a moment. We could have, you and I could have gone into Slack at the very beginning of this. So bear with me. So as I mentioned, when you're monitoring and troubleshooting, the first step is being alerted. Well, I could have came here first in Slack and clicked on my production 8. And I can see in my production 8 Slack alert that there was some gateway response time outlier issues. Okay, so I was alerted through Slack. Okay, I could have came here and clicked on the Go Operational Overview. Guess what it would have done, ladies and gentlemen? It would have taken me to that overall dashboard, that original dashboard I showed you. It would have taken me there. So what I've demonstrated is multiple ways to achieve the same goal. I could have, one, came into Sumo Logic, went to the folder and opened up the dashboard, or two, I could have went into Slack and went into my alerting and clicked on the actual link for the dashboard. Okay. I could have also, from the Slack alert, clicked on the go to service details. That's that more detailed dashboard that I drilled to. Okay. So again, my goal here is to find out what happened and why it happened. So far, all I've done here is open up a set of dashboards. Okay. Now, what I'd like to do now is take a look at my CPU and total memory. There's 6 panels on this dashboard. Under each one of these panels is an actual query. Okay, so we want to look at our CPU and total memory. We see it has some issues there. Okay, so in this particular example, there's no other dashboard to go to. We're not going to drill to another dashboard like we did before. What we are going to do is we're going to go ahead and look at the actual metrics. So we got alerted. We're now going to look at the metrics to find out what's going on. Okay, so what I did, ladies and gentlemen, I did it so quickly. In the top right corner of my service detail of this CPU total memory panel, there's this icon in the top right corner. This icon allows you to open the actual metric. Okay, so it launched the metrics tab. Now, in case you ever see this on an exam, when you look at the metrics, this first item up here, this thing that I'm pointing to, okay, that's called a heat map. Okay, and the heat map colors will change. They'll get darker, increase the more the messages. If you notice, there aren't any heat maps over to the left or to the right here. It's where the error starts to begin. And again, if you ever see this on exam, the heat map will get darker based on the more amount of messages. Okay. Odell, what are we looking at? We're looking at the metrics. Okay. The metrics that we're looking at are our CPU and our memory. Okay. And let me close that and do it again. I might have messed something up. So again, we're looking at our CPU and our memory. Okay. The actual query that was created for that dashboard panel is right here. Okay. Now, another one of our features, and I know I'm giving you a lot of features, but again, just take mental notes here. Each one of these heat maps represents a minute. Okay. What I can do within our tool is I can click on the shift key and hold my left mouse down and click on one of these panels. What that's going to do for me is that's going to open up the actual underlying log search. Odell, you lost me way long time ago. I'm lost. Okay, so let me kind of walk you through. I'm just giving you a recap. So we started out looking at all these dashboard panels. We were alerted. Okay. One of the features in our tool is it allows you to drill on a particular dashboard. So we were able to drill and go to a more detailed dashboard. We then saw that our memory had some issues, our CPU. So we wanted to see the underlying metrics. Okay. So that launched the actual metrics tab. Okay? And we see that there are some issues from starting at 8:45 my time and going all the way to approximately 9. So, okay, 8:59. So we then clicked on one of the actual heat map cells, and that brought us to the actual log search. Okay, now let's talk about this log search, ladies and gentlemen. What you're seeing here, and I'll talk more about this in detail later, you're seeing a source category. That's a metadata tag. We're equating that metadata tag to our checkout logs. Okay. We're using a keyword. We want from our checkout logs, we want anything that has error or exception in it. Okay. We see that we're looking at page 1 of 9. The display fields are our time and our message. So you'll see that I'm seeing page 1, there's 25 on a page. Each one of these messages has either error or exception highlighted. So I can see that I have 9 pages of error or exceptions here. That's great, but I want to see all of my messages. So what I'm going to do here is remove the actual keywords, and we'll talk about those coming up. And I'm also going to change the time a little bit and give it a little bit more time. Odell, what are you doing again? I am demonstrating troubleshooting and monitoring. I was alerted. I then investigated by looking at some of the dashboards. Now I'm looking at the underlying query. All right, so here's all the messages. So again, this is source category. This is my checkout log messages. I'm looking at the last 3 hours. Okay, I see that there's over 74,000 messages. I see that I'm looking at page 1 of 2,997. Now, I talked about earlier in my actual introduction, ladies and gentlemen, of the slides, I talked about that machine learning and those advanced analytics. Okay, right now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm looking at 74,000 messages. I want to be able to narrow that down. Okay, so one of the features that I'm going to use is something called log reduce. Log reduce is going to go through those 74,000 messages and find patterns, and it's going to group those patterns together. Okay, so if you watch, I'm going to click on the log reduce. Notice my message changed. It's using a pipe feature, and it's now adding the actual command log reduce. So we'll give it a second to run, and then you're going to see that the tool is going through all of those messages and grouping the patterns together. Odell, what's the advantage of that? Well, it allows me to find those anomalies. Okay, and again, you can see it's still going. If I take a look, for example, this particular message right here appears almost 9,000 plus times so far. Okay, and this message 4,000, and so forth and so on. Okay, so it's going through all of those messages and grouping the patterns together. The benefit of that is it saves you from having to look at all of those so many thousands of records. Okay, so hopefully you can see the benefit of this feature. Again, my goal here is to find out what the problem is, and we're going to get there once this completes. All right, now some other features and capabilities that you have, again, I'll show you features during my demo as well, is you have the ability to change the column header, the sort order. So I can just go up to my counts and I can click on that and change the sort order just by clicking it, okay? We also have a command that you can use in your code, but again, be aware you can just click on that. So I'm gonna change it from descending to ascending, okay? And I'm just going to go through here and look and see if I can find anything that kind of jumps out at me right away. It's still going through those messages. So I can see here, this particular message here appeared one time. This one here, one time. Okay, so I can see, so it's finally done gathering results. Okay, so I'm going to go through here and look. I can see it. If you look at a message and you're saying, hey, I see asterisks in some of those messages, basically that's saying that the number is different. Okay, so the value may be different. So that's why you see that. All right, so I come along here and I look and say, okay, and then I see something that says, all right, this message here happened 3 times. Info boot 27, Travelogic app, starting cluster, service checkout version, 1.14 dev. Okay, no, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Can anyone see the problem here with this? You can unmute yourselves or you can put it in chat. Can anyone see the problem with this line right here? If you're talking, I can't hear you.
It's the asterisk.
No, the asterisk, a good try. The asterisk is basically letting you know that the cluster numbers are different. So of these 3 times, the numbers are different. It was a different cluster. Anyone else? Good guess. All right, so here, let me help you out. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, I work for the Travelogic company. And one of the things that I had the task of doing is looking at the production environment. I looked at the production environment. Look what this reads. It says checkout service version 1.14 dev. So what this tells me is that someone promoted a dev release in a production environment. Okay, so that was the goal of my demonstration, ladies and gentlemen. I started out looking at the dashboards, but I could have went to the alerts as well. It would have taken me to the dashboards. So these two coincide together. They work together. So I was alerted, pardon me. I then looked at the metrics on one of my dashboards to find out, hey, what's going on? I found out that the CPU and the memory had issues. Okay. Then finally, I went over to the logs and I found out, hey, someone promoted. Okay. Joe asked a question, any reason why we went with the alerts with the fewest counts rather than the most? Well, we were looking for an anomaly. So that rare occasion. All right, good question. All right, now that we understand, we notice that we understand that there's a monitoring and troubleshooting flow. There's also a flow for data as well. Again, I'm going to lean on your imagination. Now, I want you to imagine there's a highway, Okay, on one end of the highway, there's Sumo Logic, the cloud-based environment. Okay, on the other end of the highway is your environment, your logs and your metrics. Somehow we have to use a mechanism or a vehicle to get your logs and metrics into our Sumo Logic environment. That vehicle that we're going to use is called a collector. Okay, that collector allows you to define up to 1,000 sources. Okay, that collector encrypts, compresses, and sends your logs and metrics into the Sumo Logic environment. Okay, so again, collectors is the vehicle that's used to get your logs, your metrics, your data, that machine data, to get it into our environment. Now, once we have your logs and metrics in our environment, that will allow you and I to build searches and analyze. Okay, we can use operators and display our results in different types of chart outputs. Okay, then finally, we'll be able to create some visualizations that'll allow us to display in dashboards and set up alerts. As you just witnessed in my demo, I looked at dashboards. I also looked at some alertings. So again, we get our data in, we then build some searches using operators and displaying them in different output types. And then we can also set up monitoring capabilities where we're creating dashboards and alerts. That's our logical data flow, okay? All right, now, I know the slide looks sort of overwhelming, okay? But let's divide the slide in half. Again, I'm leaning on your imagination. Here's that Sumo Logic environment. Here's the cloud-based environment that I was discussing earlier. Here's your logs and your metrics, okay? There are two vehicles that we can use to get your logs and metrics into our environment. It's either an installed or a hosted. So the two vehicles are called collectors. It's either install collector or hosted collector. And we're dividing this slide in half. So let's look at the left half. This scenario for an install collector is typically for an on-prem environment. So if you notice here, we've installed a collector on multiple servers, a distributed installation, okay? Those collectors are going to encrypt, compress, and send your logs and metrics to our Sumo Logic environment. This is a distributed approach. This is one example. Another example is maybe you want a dedicated server for your install collector, and all the other servers feed to it. So again, this server is going to encrypt, compress, and send your logs and metrics into the Sumo Logic environment. Again, a practical example for your on-prem environments, install collectors. On the other hand, is a hosted collector, okay? If your logs and metrics are already in Azure, or they're in the Google Cloud platform, or they're in AWS, they're already in the cloud. So all we need to do is know where they are, and we will host them. Sumo Logic will host them from there. It's a cloud-to-cloud type environment. There's no installation on your hosted collectors. We're just finding out where the logs are, where the metrics are, and make sure we have security access rights to them, and everything's fine from there, okay? So again, the big takeaway from this screenshot is there's two vehicles to get your logs and metrics into our environment. It's either going to be install collector or a hosted collector, depending on where your logs and metrics are. If it's in the cloud, you know it's going to be hosted. If it's on-prem, you know it's going to be installed, okay? Now, once your logs and metrics are in our environment, you need to grab it. You need to search through it. You need to parse through it. You need to be able to talk to it. So what we utilize are metadata tags. And essentially a tag is a name given to a description. For example, you could use a _ collector tag and equate that to a host name. Okay, now that's a broad approach. It'll get you there, but again, you could utilize that metadata tag. Or maybe you want to use the _ source name metadata tag, where you're equating that to the actual path and name of the log file. But you'll notice that there's one in bold, our preferred, our recommended, the one that we'll use most often, the _ source category. That one can be freely configured. So we could set our underscore source category to Labs Apache Access, or Labs Apache Error, or Prod Apache Access, or AWS West Region Apache Access, and so forth. So again, we can freely configure it to designate what we want to look at. All right, enough of me lecturing. I apologize if I went a little long-winded, but here we are. We are about to log into Sumo Logic's training environment, okay? Now, you'll have access to this training environment, but I'd like for you to first think of a digit from 1 to 999. It's a three-digit number, okay? Make sure it's 3 digits. So from 1 to 999, think of that 3-digit number. Any number you want. Go ahead and put that number in the chat, okay? Thank you, Michael. Now, while all of you are thinking of your numbers and putting them in chat, it needs to be 3 digits. I want you to watch me as well, okay? So you're going to go ahead and open up a browser, okay? Again, you're watching me, and you're going to type in, and I'll put this in there as well. You're going to type in service.sumologic.com. I want you to watch me first so we make sure everyone gets in correctly. Now, once you type in that service.sumologic.com, you, of course, are going to log in. Let me turn that off. Okay, and you're going to use the training. You're going to type in the word training, and then the plus symbol and the word analyst. And then you'll put in your 3-digit number at sumologic.com. Okay, so that's what you're going to use to log in, ladies and gentlemen. You're using your 3-digit number, and then the password is uppercase S for security, and then 22, and then an exclamation mark. So make sure, everyone, that you were able to successfully log in. Go ahead and give it a try. Oops, I spelled it wrong. Good catch, thank you. All right. Again, confirm that you were able to successfully log in. Thank you, Barcina, thank you. Let us know if you have any problems getting in. Before you start clicking and touching and moving around, give me an opportunity to let everyone log in. Leah, no worries. You're going to use your initials when you save things. So if a few of you log in the same number, no worries. Whenever you save something, just use your initials. All right, I don't want to go any further until everyone gets in. All right, looks like a lot of you are good to go. Good, good, good. All right. Pawan, what's the problem? What number are you using? Again, this is our training environment. Try to use another number, Pawan. Use 841. Try another number. Again, the credentials are in the chat. Make sure you're going to our URL. You're replacing the pound symbols with your number, 3-digit number, and make sure it's security 22 with an exclamation mark. All right. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Again, if you have problems, put them in the chat. We'll get to you shortly. All right, now, what we're going to do, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to kick the tires. We're going to look under the hood. We're going to blow the horn. We're going to roll the windows down. So I use that analogy, the car analogy, because again, we're actually trying something new. So let's first get familiar with the environment, okay? Now, if you came in the environment and you saw this blue stack of pancakes, this blueberry stack of pancakes, that allows you to expand our navigation panel. If you came in, your navigation panel was already expanded, that arrow collapses it. So again, you have the ability to expand and collapse the navigation panel, okay? With the navigation panel expanded, you have 4 folders. You have a recent folder. All of our folders has bubble help. So if you hover over it, you'll see the bubble help, okay? So you have a recent folder. That's where if you recently opened something or saved something, you'll find it in that folder. To the right of that is your favorites folder. If you favorited an object, it'll be stored in this folder. To the right of that is your personal folder. Whenever you save something, it's going to automatically be stored in your personal folder, your personal folder. When you create something or you save something, it's going to be stored in your personal folder. Okay, that's yours. All right, and then over to the right of that is the library. Your administrator may have shared something with the entire company. Okay, you can find that there. Each one of these folders has bubble help. Okay, below the folders is the ability to search. Okay, you'll notice if you go even further down, there's a darker shaded area. We refer to this as our main menu. Okay, now I want to point out one of the things about the main menu that customers often ask, Odell, well, where do I log out of the CIP at? That's a great question. So if you come to the main menu, you'll see the training ID you log in. If you click on that training ID, that's where you would sign out if you ever needed to sign out, okay? All right, so again, that was our navigation panel. We looked at everything over there. Now let's go over to the right. Now, let me just say, if you came, let me digress for a moment. If you came into the training environment and you saw a bunch of tabs open, let me just demonstrate you're not doing this. If you saw a bunch of tabs open, you can easily clear those tabs at once. You go to any one of those tabs, click on the 3 dots, and close all tabs. That's if this appeared in your environment. Again, this is a training environment. Those numbers are reused. So maybe you had some open tabs. Anyhow, to the right of the navigation panel, you should see 3 tabs. You should see a house for your home. You should see a folder for your library. And then you see a bell for your alerts. We're going to spend our time on that home tab. So make sure you're on the home tab. The home tab has 3 links underneath it. The first link under the home tab is the home link. Here you can start searching. So you have different types of searches that you can build. You also see any recently opened dashboards or saved searches, recently run searches or recommended dashboards. So this is all on the home tab, home link, okay? The link to the right of the home link is the learn link. Now, this is where we've actually gone a little further and tried to give you some videos and some starting points. So first, when you come to this learn link, you're going to see five quick start micro lesson videos out there for you. So if you wanted to find out data collection strategies or built-in metadata or keywords and metadata or using your data in Sumo Logic, again, we start you out with some quick start videos. If you scroll down over to the left, you'll see on your learn link here, you'll see the labs that you and I are going to utilize. So these 7 lab steps are what we're going to come back and follow. You also, some of you may be registered for our administration class, which is coming up on Thursday. These are the actual lab steps that we're going to use for administration. Now, these can be done with an instructor or they can be done self-service, okay? And I'll show you more about self-service coming up. Just be aware on this learn link under the home tab, we want to help you. We want to get you started. We give you videos and we give you labs to get you started, okay? Over to the right of the labs, you're going to see 6 boxes. Now, during my introduction, I talked about a slide that mentioned the actual data flow, okay? If you recall that data flow slide, it says we need to get your data into our environment. So we use collectors. Then it talked about step 2, we're going to search and analyze, okay? But it mentioned something called operators. Here's where you can find out the operators. So if you click on the cheat sheet, which is the first box over to the right of the admin labs, you click on that box, it launches a new tab. What you're seeing is the description and the example use case of all of our operators. Now, for those of you that are taking the Search Mastery course, tomorrow you're going to see us utilize quite a few of these operators. Okay, I am closing the tab for our operators and going back to the CIP. All right, so to the right of our cheat sheet is the documentation. Our full documentation is available there. Some of you are new to the tool. I would click on that documentation and come right here where it says start here. Click on that start here. We give you a nice flow of steps. So you want to find out more about Sumo Logic? You can click on the about. Gives you a bunch of links and information here, and so forth. Okay, you can get started here. If you want to just take the labs and go ahead and do the tutorials, you can come to the quick start lab guides. So here's the fundamentals, the administration, and the search mastery. Okay, we're offering those 3, but if you want to learn more about SOC Op dashboards, you can come take the monitoring and analytics, metric mastery. Okay, so again, these are the actual quick start labs and tutorials that we achieve from coming from our documentation out of the CIP. I close the tab and return back to the CIP. We just looked at the cheat sheets and the documentation. It's a good idea and a good practice to keep up with what's new. You can always click on the what's new box. Over to the left here, down the second row, if you ever need to issue a support ticket, again, you can issue a support ticket here. If you're interested in registering, you can click on the Get Trained. That's going to launch our LMS system. Okay, and again, you'll see in our LMS system, our June classes are all up and listed. Okay, and our July courses will be up there shortly. You will then be able to click the arrow and go to our July classes. You can click on the register and register for any upcoming classes. We typically offer our classes twice a day, a morning session and an evening session. You all are taking the morning session of fundamentals. We also have a fundamentals evening session later today. I am closing the tab and returning back to the CIP. We just looked at the Get Training, and then the last box over in the right corner is the community. Okay, this is where other Sumo users share work, share their findings, okay, present work, okay. All right, so again, let's see. All right, so that was all of the learn, okay. Lastly, let's click on the certification. We're just kicking the tires. We're not doing anything yet, ladies and gentlemen, just getting comfortable with the environment, okay. Now, later in this course, I'm going to say it's time to take the certification. Right now, you are logged into our training environment. We don't want you to take the certification in our training environment. One reason why we don't want you to take the actual certification in our training environment is because you're registered as training analyst so-and-so whatever number. We don't want your certification to read, congratulations, training analyst 313, you just completed the fundamentals course. So one of the things you're going to do, and I'll talk about it again, when it comes to getting certified, is you're going to log out of our training environment and log into your company's Sumo Logic environment. Anyhow, there's a few other things I want to talk about here, okay? So we're on the home tab on the certification link. I'm clicking on the Get Certified. I wanted to point out a few things here for you, okay? Clients often wonder, is this being recorded, or can I get the recording of this class? And we tell them, yes, you can get it. It's right there for you. So all I did was click on the Get Certified. It brought me to this screen here. If I want to hear the 2-hour lecture, look at the slides, and see the lab guide, I can come on to the recorded live training, okay? Once you click on that recorded live training, it gives you all of our courses, okay? So you could come back here, let's say tomorrow, you wanted to hear the fundamentals again. You come out, click on fundamentals, you register really quickly, it's just a click of a button. And once you click that button, you're gonna hear Josh's voice for the 2-hour lecture. So it's the same material that I'm presenting here. Here's the lecture, here's the slides, and here's the actual guide, okay? All that's available to you for all of our courses. So if you wanted to do self-service, you could come out here and do this as well, okay? Again, I digress to kind of just demonstrate to you where you would find the actual recording of the classes, okay? All right, very good. All right, so let's go ahead and take a quick break here. We'll get into the lab shortly. So I'll put up the timer. We'll take a quick 5-minute break and we'll come back and get started. Yeah, Stevenson, you can take the certification anytime you want. Okay, welcome back, everyone. Hopefully you had a short but quick break. You would breathe, stretch, get away from the monitor for a moment. Right. Back in here, I see there's quite a few questions going on here. All right, let's get back in here, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully you are still within the CIP, Continuous Intelligence Platform. We just kicked the tires, looked under the hood, drove the car around the block. All right.
Hey, Odell, it's a little difficult to hear you.
Okay, thank you. A little bit better?
Much.
All right, thank you, sir. All right, so let's go ahead. Welcome back again. Hopefully you can hear me now. Let's click on the, make sure you're on the home and the learn link. All right. So on the home and learn link, let's go ahead down to the hands-on labs and fundamentals. Now, you might notice mine looks different than yours. I've taught this class several times. So every time you go through these labs, it's going to check out for completion. So you may have noticed that yours is checked off. Doesn't matter. You can still utilize them. No big deal. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead, everyone together, and let's go ahead and click on lab 1, viewing the data. I'll put this in the chat just in case someone's having problems. Put the link in here for you. All right. Now, if you're in a Google Chrome environment, one of the techniques you can utilize is you could pin your tabs. Okay, so I'm going to right click on my lab guide tab and pin it. Again, the advantage of doing that is it allows me to toggle between the lab guide and the CIP. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and get in it. So we've already logged in. So we're on the lab 1 here viewing our data. We've already signed in. What we want to do together here is see what data is available. So let me just, again, lean on your imagination for a moment. Let's imagine that your administrator, he or she had the task of defining collectors in all of your sources. And let's say he or she went on vacation or what have you. They said they've done it, they've created it, but you want to go and find out if it's created, okay? So what you and I are going to do is we're going to go into our CIP. So make sure you go back to the CIP. Make sure your navigation panel is visible. Let's go down to the darker shaded area, what we refer to as the main menu. Okay, and let's go ahead and click on the Manage Data link in the main menu. It's just one click, okay? You'll see that there's some sublinks under Manage Data. Let's go ahead and click on the collection. This is our collector page. This is where all of our collectors get defined here. You'll notice right away that you don't have that ability to add collector because you're an analyst. That's typically done by an administrator. Anyhow, one of the things that I often do when I come into the collections, because it's so busy on the eyes, I often go to where I see the phrase expand. Right now, all is expanded. I click on none, just so I can visually, it's easier and comfortable on the eyes. So basically that none, all it did was collapsed all of the collectors. When they're expanded, what you're seeing underneath is the actual sources. I am going to go ahead and demonstrate. I'm going to kind of digress for a moment, and I'm going to demonstrate searching for a collector. It's case insensitive. So I'm just going to hit the return. You don't have to do this. You can just watch, ladies and gentlemen. I kind of want to give you a teaser for the administration course on Thursday. So what we're seeing here is I searched for an OCTA and it found 2 sources, okay? The first one is Labs OCTA. I can see it's healthy. Remember that stoplight that I leaned on your imagination? I said that stoplight, green is good, red is problem, yellow is warning. So we still see the effects of the green here. This is healthy. It's a hosted collector, okay? We can see there's one source been defined underneath it. We can see within the last hour, there's been some activity, and we can see that it ingested over 17,000 messages within the last hour, okay? We can see if we expand that particular collector, there's one source. Oh, it's my lab's Okta sort logs or metrics that are being sent to Sumo. So this is what's being sent right here. There's that one source, okay? Now, if I take a look at the next one here, it is also healthy and green. It's hosted as well. It has 5 sources defined underneath it, okay? It has had some activity in the last hour. It has ingested over 26,000 messages in the last hour. If I expand it, I can see, oh, I'm grabbing my S3 buckets, my guard duty, my CloudTrail logs, etc. So those are the sources that are defined for this collector, okay? Mayor, I may have mispronounced your name, but the answer to your question, what are sources? Sources are where your logs and metrics are coming from. So are you getting your database logs? Are you getting your Windows metrics, your logs, and so forth? So wherever they're coming from or wherever they're stored. All right, going back to our lab guide. So we did all of that. That's perfect. Now we're right here under the next phase here. We want to create a search. And what I'd like for you to do is just under number 4, ladies and gentlemen, if you can just copy the query that's under number 4. Again, you can copy it to make it easier for you. I'll put it in the chat in case you can't copy. We're going to run that query. So let's go back to the CIP. We can close the collection tab. Remember, we can always open the tab again, but just to keep our desktop kind of clean, I just close my tab. It's not mandatory, okay? All right, so let's go ahead and click on the Stevenson, what did you miss? It says you missed that. What did you miss, sir? All right, let's go ahead and click on the new button. To copy the query, just go into your lab guide. So you're on lab number 1, and you're going down to number 4. And you could type this in as well. I just want to save you from fat fingering it. So again, you can just go to number 4 and copy it there. And I also put it in the chat as well. You're welcome. All right, so all we're doing is we're clicking on the new button, the new blue button there, and we want to choose a log search. And let's go ahead and paste. And let's talk about what's being done, okay? Now, some of you may be familiar with SQL. Some of you may be familiar with that. Our tool has similar features as SQL. One of those similar features is the asterisk, the wild card, okay? So here's that metadata tag that we said we want to use often. Here it is. We're saying count by all of our source categories for the last 15 minutes, okay? So again, let's go ahead and run that. And what we're seeing, ladies and gentlemen, is one, you see a histogram minute by minute. See that up there. That histogram can be hidden by using the hide or the show at any time, okay? All right, now, underneath the histogram, you're gonna see the status, all right, the time it ran, the status is being done or not, the elapsed time, mine took about 8 seconds, the total results. Your results may be different, no worries. Again, you're getting the results. You see the original messages tab. So here are all of my 879,000 messages. I'm looking at page 1 of 35,000 pages. We told the tool to aggregate all of our source categories, count them. So that count by gives us an aggregates tab automatically. So we can see each source category and the total amount of messages. So I can see Kubernetes right here at over 45,000 messages, okay? All right, going back to the actual lab guide. Be aware, ladies and gentlemen, I reminded you of this before. I'm quickly going back to the lab that you can click on the column headers to sort. There's also a command that we can use in our code, but I just want to remind you of clicking on the column headers. Anyhow, back to the lab guide. Now, suppose, ladies and gentlemen, that we are interested in messages from our Apache Access, okay? We can start out by creating queries to find those messages that we're interested, but it might not be necessary. Maybe someone in our company, in our organization, saved some searches and saved some dashboards that are related to our app Apache Access. Maybe someone did that for us, okay? If no one has done that for us, then maybe we're going to consume an app, and we'll talk about that shortly. Let's deal with the first scenario. We're going to find and display a shared dashboard, okay? So we're going to go find something that someone shared with us. So let's go back to the CIP together. Let's make sure that we have our navigation panel visible. Make sure you're on the library tab. That's the fourth tab all the way over to the right. Click on the library tab, okay? And you and I are gonna search for Apache Access, case insensitive, okay? Once you type in and hit the enter key for searching for your Apache Access, you should get results, okay? You should see a folder there that reads Apache Access. If you expand that folder has some subfolders, and it also has a dashboard. So if we click on that Apache Overview dashboard, this is a dashboard that was shared. And if you get any pop-up messages, you can just close them out. No worries about that. But this is a dashboard that someone shared with us from the company, okay? Now, we don't know if that person that shared the dashboard, if they changed the underlying query. They might have tweaked something. They might have filtered something. We don't know, but they shared it with us, okay? Not that there's anything wrong with it. We just don't know if it's pristine enough, okay? So again, we were able to easily consume something that was shared by going to the library and searching for it. All right, so we found it, okay? Now, if the dashboard contains the information we're looking for or something close, that's great, okay? But what if it isn't? If the dashboard doesn't show the type of information we're looking for, or if the library search didn't find anything useful, it's a good idea to install the Apache apps. Okay. Now, here's what I really want to point out, and I want to. This is a great thing to be aware of, ladies and gentlemen. Sumo Logic deliver out-of-the-box dashboards, save searches, and field extractions for popular data sources. Here's the kicker. They're the best way to start exploring a new data source. So in other words, ladies and gentlemen, we have a whole bunch of apps for a whole bunch of sources that has searches with those apps as well as dashboards. They're already there for you. All you have to do is connect it up to your environment. Okay, that's what we're about to do now. We're about to demonstrate how you can consume one of these apps. Okay, so hopefully you're following along. You're under the install an app and view the content. We're going to go to our app catalog. So back to our, make sure you're in your navigation panel. You're in your main menu, and you click on the phrase app catalog. And what you're seeing is different categories that we have over to the left and all of our actual apps. We're going to go ahead and search case insensitive for an Apache app. So again, we typed in the search the word Apache, case insensitive. We're about to consume an app. It's called Apache app, the one with the feather. That's the one that we're going to consume. So go ahead and click on the one with the feather. Now, one of the cool features about this these apps is they give you a nice little description, an overview. It says this Apache app is a unified log and metrics app that helps you monitor the availability, the performance, the health, and the resource utilization of Apache web forms. That's perfect. That's what we want. So you also have the ability to preview some of the dashboards. There's a little arrow over to the right to see the dashboards that are going to be automatically created for you. Okay. Now, let's you and I together go ahead and click on the add to integration. Okay. We are in, we're actually in an actual step process here. So we need to configure some things here. The first thing we're going to do is change our our Apache log source. We're going to change it from a source category. So if you click that drop down arrow, you should be able to choose another item. We want to enter a custom data filter. Okay. And the actual filter expression we're going to utilize, you can type it in. I just like grabbing things, ladies and gentlemen, make it easier for myself. So I'm just going to go ahead and grab the actual under number 4 in my lab guide. It reads web server underscore system equals Apache. You'll notice that there's a period at the end of the sentence. If you're copying, you don't want to capture the period. Okay. Again, going back to the CIP, we're entering a custom data filter. It's going to be equal to, and if we paste, it should be equal to web server underscore system equals Apache. Okay. Again, we're in a wizard mode. We can click next. You're going to get a pop-up eventually that says successful. Success. Okay. You can then exit out of the app catalog in the top right corner by clicking the exit. And here's a pop-up question for you, ladies and gentlemen. We just created something. Where can we find it? Where should we look for it? We just saved something. We consumed something. Where should we find it, ladies and gentlemen? Excellent, Martin. Excellent. Martin's correct. If you look in your personal folder, you should now see that Apache app that you downloaded. You should also see a dashboard there. Now this one is pristine. No one is, configured or changed it. This one actually was downloaded from our app catalog, okay? As opposed to the one that we consumed earlier from someone that shared it with us. On this dashboard, we can see the requests per seconds. We can see where users are logging in from our visitors' locations. We can see the top URLs and so forth. So there's tons of information on this dashboard related to my Apache overview. Now, we also have the ability to share this as well. We can go up to either where the folder in our personal folder, we can click on the Apache and click on the 3 dots and choose share. Sam, I think your issue is probably because you didn't configure it correctly. So when you go into the app catalog and you search for Apache, what you need to do when you do the add integration is change the source category. Make sure you choose enter custom data filter. And then you need to also paste in that expression. So that might be why you didn't get anything, because you might have missed this step. Okay. Anyhow, we're talking about sharing our dashboard that we've actually downloaded. Oh, okay. Glad you got it, Sam. No worries. So if we go ahead and click the 3 dots to the right of the word Apache, we can choose share. Okay. Now, what you're seeing is a share screen. You have the ability to share with users, groups, and roles. If you click where it reads share this content with users and roles in your organization, if you click there, you're going to get a drop down. Okay. And you can see users, groups, and roles. Okay. So if I wanted to, I could share this with Josh if I wanted to. Okay. But you and I, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to share it with the entire organization. So click on that very first choice, your entire organization. Okay. Now, be aware in case this ever comes up on an exam, when you share, you have the ability to share the viewing rights, the edit capabilities, and the manage. There's no read and there's no delete. There's view, edit, and manage when you're sharing. Okay, we're going to leave this as view and click share. Now, others can find it in the library. All right. So congratulations, ladies and gentlemen, you completed task 1. Okay, we signed in the Sumo Logic. We searched for a source category to see what data was available. We searched for and viewed the dashboard that was shared by someone in our organization, and we installed an app. All right. In our lab guides, ladies and gentlemen, we have the ability to go to the next lab in the bottom right corner. So let's go ahead and click on Lab 2, search for log data, Lab 2. All right, now in Lab 2 here, we're going to create a query. Again, I want you to go ahead and copy what's under number 1. Our goal here, excuse me, under number 2, it says we want to look at our Apache Access, and we want to search for messages that have the keyword get. Okay, and let's go ahead and copy under number 2 that query. Let's go back to our Apache, and let's close all our tabs. We don't need all of those extra tabs that we open. So if you have a bunch of tabs, just go to any one of those tabs and close all tabs. Now let's click on a new log search and let's paste. Now, I am going to digress just for a moment, okay? Notice when I click my cursor into the log search area, it gives me a set of metadata tags. So I want to quickly demonstrate this to you. We could have just clicked source category and started typing. It gives us a type of head capability. So I can go ahead and do something like this if I wanted to, okay? Again, we have it in memory. I just wanted to demonstrate to you. Now, let's talk about what we have. We're using that metadata tag, our favorite. We're looking at our access log messages. We're using an AND operator. Now, this AND is implied, which means that the query will work without the AND. When you want to use an OR, you have to explicitly type an OR, okay? We're also using a keyword. We want all of our access log messages that have the get in them, okay? And we're doing this for the last 60 minutes. So let's talk about the time for a second, ladies and gentlemen. Every time you create a new log search, it's going to give you the last 15 minutes by default. You can change that by clicking the time. It has other relative times that you can choose from. You can also choose recent. If you've been in the environment before, you'll have something in recent. You can also choose custom, where you're choosing a date and a time, okay? We're gonna go ahead and choose relative last 60 minutes. Odell, I noticed that those times are predefined. What if I wanted the last 45 minutes or the last 38 minutes or something along that? Oh, no problem. So let me demonstrate, ladies and gentlemen, how you're gonna type in your predefined number. So you highlight what's there. You start out with a minus symbol. And if I want to do 45, I put in that numeric number. If I want to do minutes, I do M for minutes. If I want to do hours, H for hours, and D for days. So again, the key thing there is typing in the minus, the numeric value, and which time frame, okay? So again, I digressed. Again, we're going to look at our Apache access log messages, and we're bringing back all of the get messages for the last 60 minutes. So let's go ahead and run that. Okay. So we can see, here's our histogram. We can see the actual time, the status is done, the time it took, and the total amount of results. If you ever needed your session ID, that's available to you as well. Over here, I see my messages, and in my field browser, I see the time and the message are being displayed. These fields here were actually pulled out. They're called FERs, field extraction rules. They were pulled out during extraction time. I think one of you had a question, but one of the things that you can do here is you could click on one of these fields, not the box, but the name, and it'll give you a breakdown of what's there. So if I had a bunch of source categories, I could see the breakdown of all of my source categories and what percentages they have. It'll be a more practical example coming up, but again, we'll talk about that shortly. Anyhow, if we look here, ladies and gentlemen, we're seeing I'm seeing one of 1,241 pages. This first page has 25 items on it. Okay, so it's going to be 25 items per page. If I ever wanted to change the number per page, I could go over to this gear symbol over here to the right. This gear symbol will allow me to choose my display messages and change the number per page. Okay. So again, we just ran this query for all of our get messages. We see one of page one of so many. If we look at each message, we can see that get is highlighted. So that keyword highlighted my gets. So these are all messages that have get in them. Now I'm going to digress again just to kind of show you that without the and, it will work because it's implied. So when I run this, it's still going to work. Again, sometimes the and makes it easier to read and understand, okay? And of course, here's my messages with the get, okay? Awesome. All right, let's keep going. Parsing our messages. Let me give you a teaser alert. So one of the things that I often do, because I don't know everything about this tool, there's so much stuff here. But I do have a resource, and I share my resource often with everyone. Here's my resource. It's called help.sumologic.com. So help.sumologic.com. I use that as a resource. You should use it as a resource, especially if you have to take an exam anytime. But anyhow, I wanted to show you this. Parse operators, okay? So there's different types of parse operators, ladies and gentlemen, in case this ever appears on a test. There's the parse anchor, the regex, the JSON, the CSV. There's different types of parsings, okay? Again, I wanted to digress to show you where you can find that at, okay? Now, anyhow, we are going to use parsing to make our messages easier to read and to interpret. We're going to parse out for our URL, our status code, the size, and the referring website. That's what we want to parse out of our message, okay? All right, so again, let's go back to our CIP. I want you to watch me first. The very first message, ladies and gentlemen, the very first message, I'm going to go ahead and highlight the quote. The quote, I'm using a parsing anchor. I'm anchoring on the quote because the quote is not going to change. So if you watch me, I'm highlighting and I'm going all the way to the end of that quote. So I have the get messages, the URL, the status code, the size, and the referring URL. Go ahead and highlight in your item, okay? So again, you're starting with the quote to the left of the get. You're holding your left mouse down and you're highlighting all of that. All right, now let's right click on that highlighted phrase. We see a set of choices. We're going to choose parse selected text. Odell, what are we doing? We have over, let me just kind of digress. We have over 31,000 messages. We don't want to look at all 31,000 messages. We want to make it easier for ourselves. So we're going to parse out our status code, the size, the URL, and the referring URL, so we can easily locate them, okay? So again, I want you to watch me, ladies and gentlemen, if you're following along. So the first thing I'm going to do is highlight the URL. So after the get message, that's my URL. I'm highlighting it, just dragging my mouse over and highlighting. When I let go of the mouse, I see this yellow phrase. click to extract this value. So we click to extract that value. It replaces that highlighted item with an asterisk. So you and I are going to give it a field name. We'll call it URL. And since we're going to add more fields, we're going to add a comma. So that highlighted expression has been replaced with an asterisk, and we're calling it URL. Let's do it three more times. The value after that asterisk we just created, the value, the first value, let's highlight that value. When we highlight that value, we see that phrase again. Click to extract this value. So we click to extract that value. It replaces it with an asterisk. We're going to call this status underscore code. We don't use spaces. Anytime you want to use spaces, you use underscores. We're going to add a comma because we're going to add some more fields. So far, we've highlighted URL, called it URL, highlighted status code, called it status code. The next field after the status code is a number. We're going to highlight that number again. We'll click on the phrase, click to extract this value. It replaces it with an asterisk, and we're going to call it size and add a comma. Lastly, we'll highlight the referring URL, just the URL. You don't need the quotes, just the actual URL. We'll click on the phrase, click to extract this value, and we'll just call it refer. Odell, did I have to use URL, status code, size, and refer as my field names? No, you could have used A, B, and C. But you want to also keep in mind, you want to name them logically, so you'll be able to go back to them. So we just use some logical names. That's it, okay? Now, parse anchors are position-based, which means if you didn't get this right, you can't edit it and tweak it and put your cursor. No, you start over, you recapture it because it's position-based, okay? Anyhow, we'll go ahead and click submit. You'll notice that our query now changed. We now have a pipe statement, a pipe function. That pipe says continue our query, continue on, okay? It's using the parse anchor method. It's parsing, and these are the actual field names that we're utilizing. Okay, let's go ahead and run this, and I'll put this in the chat just in case someone didn't get it correctly. All right, let's go ahead and run this. And what you're going to see are some advantages. You're going to see, first of all, again, the status, the time, and the results. But you'll notice over in my field browser, over to the left here under messages, not only am I displaying time and message, but I'm also playing refer, size, status code, and URL. Those were the fields we parsed out. So again, you'll now see a column for refer, a column for size, a column for status code, and a column for URL. Okay, and then there's our original message. So this would make it easier for us to easily paste. Mayar, you can grab the actual code from the lab guide. That might be easier for you. So if you go down, you can grab the code right here from the lab guide. I'll paste it in there for you again. If you're having error messages, I again suggest that you either go back and start from the copying over, okay? Because we might have fat fingered it. Anyhow, let's continue on here. So we've filtered all those items out. Let's go ahead and save our search. So let's go back to our CIP. So this is a great thing. We found some stuff. We were able to create a search. We want to save it. We might want to use it again. So over to the right in your actual query area, you'll see the icon Save As. You can either use that approach, or you can click on the more, the three dots, and choose Save As. Okay. Let's go ahead and call this Apache Access, and let's put in our initials. Apache status codes, pardon me. Let's call it status codes. And I'll put in my initials. And There you have it. And I'll put the data in because I do this quite often. So we did our first search there. Okay. So you know it's going to be stored in your personal folder. And we can save it. And you know, we know that it's going to be stored in our personal folder. So we can see it right there. There's the actual query. I want you to start paying attention to the coloring as well, because you're going to notice that we're starting to see the orange is red is for searches, purple and green is going to be for dashboards. So again, you'll start to see that. Jeff, again, I can paste there. You can type it in there if you want. But again, the easiest way is to go back and highlight and copy that message if you want to get that done. Okay. All right, let's go ahead here. Back to our lab guide. All right, pat yourselves on the back. You completed the task 2. You created a search query. You parse the message so that it's easier to scan and interpret, and we save the search. All right, let's continue on here. You guys are doing awesome. Good job. Let's go ahead and click on lab 3, charting our data. Lab 3, charting our data is where we are. Now, there's some key points that I want to point out to you. Right? The key point I want to point out to you first is right here in the middle of the screen, you'll see it says only search results that have been aggregated using a group or an aggregate operator can be charted. Well, what does that mean, Odell? That means that min, max, sum, count, those are some of the aggregations that's going to give you the ability to chart. If you don't put an aggregation there, you won't be able to chart. And you'll see what I mean shortly. Okay. We're going to aggregate our results. We're going to count the results for each status codes. Okay. What I'd like for you to do, ladies and gentlemen, is go ahead and highlight under number 1, just highlight the pipe count by and copy that. Just the pipe count by, highlight that portion. Let's go back to our actual query. Now, we want to add another line of code. So we know we wanted to add it underneath the parse statement. So we place our cursor at the end of the parse statement. Now, some of you may have tried this. It's not enter. So you would think logically to hit enter, all enter does is run the query for you. In order to get a new line, ladies and gentlemen, on my Mac, I'm using Shift Return. You can use Alt Enter or Alt Return on other devices, but on my Mac, we're using Shift Return. That should add a new line, and we're going to paste. While I'm here, I'm going to go ahead and point out to you a few things. Okay, we haven't ran the query. All we did was paste that. Okay, notice there's nowhere for me to add a chart. I can't add a chart. But now that we added this count by and run the query, you're going to automatically get an aggregates tab. Again, the reason we have this aggregates tab is because we had an aggregate. In this instance, we had a count. Okay, if we had add, min, max, or whatever, it would also give us an aggregates tab. Okay, notice now that we have an aggregates tab, we have the ability to display our results and different output types. You don't have that on the messages tab, ladies and gentlemen, only on the aggregates tab, in case that ever appears on an exam somewhere. Also, a few other things in case. With your messages, on your messages tab, you can go to the gear symbol and export out. So on the messages tab, you can go to the gear symbol to export out your data. On the aggregates tab, if you want to export out, it's the very first icon. Okay. Now, if I were to display this in a pie chart, I say, oh yeah, that looks nice, that's great. And then I decided, well, I really want to see the numbers, the aggregates numbers. This very first icon here toggles me back to the numbers. So again, it's like a toggle. All right. All right. Going back to our, and we did that. So we have results. Now let's find out when the status code happened. We can use the time slice operator to find out and count the status over time in 1 minute increments. Okay. What I'd like for you to do now, ladies and gentlemen, is copy under number 2. Under number 2, copy the last 2 lines. You should just only be copying the pipe time slice and the count by. Those are the only 2 lines I want you to copy. Okay. Now let's go back to our CIP and let's highlight the very last line. That count by, let's highlight that. Now that it's in focus, we can go ahead and paste. Okay, and let's talk about what's going on. All right. So again, we're using that favorite metadata tag. We're bringing back our access messages. We're looking for our keyword get from those access messages. Once we found the get, we want to go ahead and parse out some fields. We then want to tell the tool we want to render our results in time slices, in buckets, okay? In 1 minute buckets is what we want to do, okay? And then finally, we're counting by. Now let's take a moment here and take a look at this count by. If I look here, it says count by underscore time slice and status code. Well, I noticed that that time slice is different than my time slice for my count by. Okay, so notice here, excuse me, on my my actual keyword. Notice here we're using the underscore time slice. That is for us to a placeholder. It's a placeholder. That's the way we use a placeholder because time slice is a keyword. So I wanted to point that out to you. All right, let's go ahead and run this. And what we're going to see here is that we have 1 minute buckets. So we have 1 minute buckets, the status code, and the amount of messages. Now, what we don't see is the order. It's not in any type of order. We could always go to the column header and choose. Now it reads better and so forth. So I can do that rather quickly as well. Okay. So again, we're seeing our aggregates tab. We've sorted it manually. There is a sort by operator that we could have added to our code as well. Okay. All right. Now we're under the transpose results, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully you're following along with me. I'm not going too fast, hopefully. Yeah, the underscore is in the time is just a placeholder. So again, you'll see that all of our operators are typically in a shaded color, okay? But we don't want to use the operator in the count by, so we're using a placeholder. So we're using the underscore. So Mayor, hopefully that helps you out. That was a question in the chat. All right, back here to our labs here. Now we want to transpose our results. Now, if you take a look here, our results here, again, numbers are great. Nothing's wrong with that, okay? But if we want to do some comparisons, some analysis, or identify trends, comparisons, analysis, and trends, it's difficult to do in a table format. It would be nice if we could create an Excel type format where we have columns and rows. So we're going to do that. We're going to transpose our results. So let's go ahead and grab that transpose statement under number 1. Just go ahead and grab that statement there and copy that. That's going to be the last line of code for us. So let's go back to the CIP. Let's place our cursor on the count by, which is the last row. And let's use the shift return or alt enter, whatever type of machine you're on, and let's paste. So again, we're telling it, hey, I want you to count by the time slice and the status code, which it did. But now we're telling it use the transpose operator. And I want on my rows, my time slice. and I want on my columns the status code. Okay, so we're telling them where we want to put those. Let's run that. Now we'll be able to easily do comparisons, identify trends, and perform analysis because we have that actual intersection. Now, be aware that the transpose operator, and you're going to find out some of our operators will sort automatically. So you'll see that it's sorted automatically for me. All right. All right. Awesome. Next, we now want to create a chart. Okay. There are many chart options available. Okay. We want to be able to change our chart into a column chart. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's go back to our CIP. Again, remember, we couldn't create a chart without having an aggregate. So the count by is on aggregate. That's how we got the aggregates tab. We couldn't display it without that aggregate. So now we can go over to our choices. You can bubble help. All of these icons has bubble help. So if you hover over it, it'll give you what it is. We want a column chart. So we click on that. Now, we can see that there's some lines that's dominating our chart here. Mine's look like 200s. These 200s are really dominating our chart. If you recall, when I gave you the demonstration, I talked about our actual legends and our dashboards are interactive. And what we meant by that is we can click on our dashboard over to the right. I can turn off the 200s just by clicking on it. So now I'm not seeing 200, but there's something else dominating. Looks like the 304s. So yeah, I could manually toggle those off, but I actually want to put that in my code. All right, so going back to our lab guides, we want to go ahead and add this where clause. So we're number 1. You want to highlight what's under number 1 under the category created chart, not the first one, but the second number 1. Okay, what we're doing here, ladies and gentlemen, is we're using our best practice to filter our data before we aggregate it. That's why we're putting the where before the count operation. Okay, the exclamation mark is used as a not. So the statement is going to read where status code is not 200 or not 304s. So let's go ahead and highlight that piece of code, go back to our CIP, place our cursor at the end of the parse statement, at the end of the parse statement, and whichever method you're using to add a new line, go ahead and use that and add a new line and paste. So to read this expression, it now reads, hey, I'm going to parse out these fields. Then I want to make sure we filter out where the status codes are not 200 and not 304s. That's what the exclamation mark does for us. We're still rendering in 1 minute buckets, still counting by, and still transposing our results. Okay, so let's run that. And voila, we magically no longer see our 200s and 304s. Okay, awesome. Again, we're putting it under the parse line again because we need to, there's a syntax to our query, and filtering out is the next step after you parse. I'll show you the syntax coming up shortly. All right, now let's go back here, did all that. All right, so wow, you guys are making excellent progress. You aggregated your results. You use the transpose operator to make it easier to read, and you created a chart of your results. You adjust the chart legend to show only the data of most interest. All right, let's go ahead and create and share a dashboard in lab number 4. Again, lab number 4. If it lets me go to it. All right, there you go. All right. So here we are. So we want to lean in on that forensic tool, dashboards, okay? We want to see key visualizations. We want to be able to search and find automatically, very quickly, okay? So we're going to go ahead and create a dashboard. I want you to follow me because there's some steps that you need to follow, okay? So let's go ahead, back to our CIP. Over in the left, in the right-hand corner, you should see the phrase add to dashboard. So let's go ahead and click on that phrase. Now it takes the name of your panel and adds it there. Okay, I'm just going to change mine real quickly. All right, you just want to be Apache status codes and your initials. Now let's click in the dashboard area. Notice you see a little progress bar. Basically, what that is doing, it's going and finding out all the existing dashboards, and it's enabling you to add this panel to an existing dashboard. So if I wanted to add this panel to a dashboard, I could find the dashboard and it would add it, okay? But we don't want to do that, ladies and gentlemen. We want to create our own dashboard. So let's go ahead and call it status codes. Let's put our initials. Okay, and you're going to notice as you start typing something unique, it filters down. Okay, and you're going to see this phrase now. So hopefully you all are following me. You're along with me right where I am. Okay, so again, we're going to click on this new blue phrase here that says create a new dashboard. Okay, once we click on that, we go to another screen. Let's go ahead and turn off create dashboard and new UI. Turn that off. Okay, and then let's click add. If you followed those steps, you should not get an error. If you've gotten an error, you need to go back and go through the actual steps again from the query, add the dashboard, give it a name, and so forth. And then make sure, here's the key thing, if you're getting an error, make sure you switch this gear symbol off, okay? Now, what you should be seeing is now you're in the edit mode of your dashboard. Well, Odell, how do you know I'm in the edit mode? Well, right now it reads done editing. If you were to click that, now you're out of the edit mode. To get in the edit mode, you click on the pencil. Okay, so here's that dashboard panel that was created off of a log search. So let me digress for a moment. Remember during my demo of monitoring and troubleshooting, I showed you two dashboard panels, two dashboards, and I told you that those dashboards have panels and those panels have underlying queries. This is the same thing. This panel has an underlying query. This is the query. Okay, that's how we made it. Anyhow, I digress. Let's go over some other things you can do here. So while we're still in edit mode, let's go over to the three dots, the more, and let's click on the phrase add panel. Okay, this has two radio buttons. This allows us to specify a title and a text. So we're going to give it a title and we're going to call it status codes. Okay, and we'll choose the radio button text and we'll type in this panel displays Apache status codes. And you can add whatever you want here, but again, you get the idea, all right? And then we just click submit. Okay, now you also have the ability by left mouse clicking, you can drag and reorder these. You can go to the sizing corners and resize them as well. So I'm left mouse dragging and clicking. Martin, you probably don't get that choice because you're not in edit mode. So make sure you click on the pencil to get in the edit mode. So again, if I'm not in edit mode, I don't see those on the three. But if I click on the pencil, I now have that capability. All right. So last thing we're going to do, I think, Mayur, your question is how do you share? Again, you would share it by going over to either let's click on the done editing. You can go up to the share icon in the top of the screen, or you can go over to the actual dashboard itself, click on the three dots, choose share. Okay. All right.
Odell, can you just show then to follow that up where it shows up in your left nav as in showing up in the library there?
Oh, okay. So let me save it first. All right, so let's go ahead and share it. Let me share it with everyone because I hadn't done it. I just manually walked through the steps. So let me go ahead and do that. So to share, I'm going to my personal folder and going to the actual dashboard, going to the word share. And I'm sharing it with the entire organization. I can notify them if I wanted to, give them an email, notify them as well. Okay, and remember the permissions you have and just share. Then if I go to the library and I share, I search for status codes is what it's called. So I would see it in one of these choices. So here it is. So if you to answer your question, you want to find a query from a panel which is shared by someone else. No problem. So again, you go to that dashboard, and in the top right corner, typically you would be able to click on that if I choose a good dashboard here. Okay. So you can edit that. So you'll be able to go back and edit that. I think that's your question there, answer there. All right, good job, good job. We did all of that. We added the text panel. Oh, one other thing I want to demonstrate here with these here dashboards. Okay, get back to mine. So here, again, I've actually moved things around. I added an actual panel. One other technique you can utilize is you can go to the three dots. Make sure you're in the edit mode though. Again, you got to be in the edit mode. Go to the three dots and you can toggle the theme. So right now we're in a light theme. We can click on the toggle theme and now we're in a darker theme. So again, we have those two choices for you by going to the toggle theme. Okay. All right. Now we can actually turn off that. Brad, there are filters. We talk about that in our admin and search mastery courses about filtering. This filter, if we put on a, and again, you learn more about that. If we put a filter on this, it'll apply to all of those, but we haven't put it on there, okay? Jatinder, you say you don't see the edit button. It should be the pencil, so make sure, again, you're in your dashboard. It should be a pencil right up there for you. All right, now let's continue on. We changed the look and feel, did all of that. All right, we shared it. Good job. So you created a panel from a search results and you added it to a new dashboard. You add the text to the panel. You change the look and feel of the dashboard. You shared the dashboard with others in your organization. So Martin, I'm not sure why you don't see the pencil. Again, you make sure your screen size is correct. If you're looking at what I have, you should have the same thing. Not sure why you're not seeing it. All right, let's go ahead on to modify your dashboard. Good point. Keith makes a good point. You might be already in edit mode, so maybe that's the issue. All right, we're on lab number 5, ladies and gentlemen. Lab number 5. Place your question in the, go ahead and place your question in the chat. All right. We want to modify our dashboards, okay? We want to look at the Apache overview dashboard, which was included in our Apache Access, and we're going to modify it, okay? So let's go back to our CIP, ladies and gentlemen. And let's close all those tabs. Let's close them all. Close all the tabs up there. Go to your personal folder. So you close all your tabs, you have a clean desktop, and go to your personal folder. Let's click on that Apache folder that we had consumed. It expands out. We now want to click on the Apache overview dashboard. So let's make sure everybody's in the Apache overview dashboard under your personal folder. And remember, this is our Apache dashboard. And one of the things that we pointed out was that visitors location, where we can see where users are logging in from around the world. You can zoom in by using your mouse. You can double click to scroll in. You can use your mouse to drag over, etc. Okay, so this is telling us that we have people logging in from around the world. Okay, what you and I are going to do is we're going to edit this dashboard panel so we can filter to only see the US. So I'm going to grab the code for this. So if you want to go ahead and grab the code under number 3, it's a where clause. So let's go ahead and copy that where clause. Now we're going to add this after our lookup table because that's where the field actually resides. I'll show you shortly. So make sure you copy the where under number 3. Let's go back to our CIP. And make sure you locate the visitors location panel. Once you find the visitors location panel, there's 3 dots in the top right corner of the visitors location panel. Click on those 3 dots. We want to go to the phrase edit. We just want to edit the query. So we're not opening up a log search in this example, ladies and gentlemen. We're just editing the query, okay? Now, let's take a look at this expression so I can kind of break it down to you real quickly. With lookup statements, ladies and gentlemen, it's best to read them from right to left. So we're providing an IP address. It's looking it up in a table. When we provide that IP address, that table is going to return postal code, city, region, country name, country code, longitude, and latitude. So since the lookup table is using country name, we're going to place our where underneath the lookup table. So place your cursor at the end of the lookup. So it should be after the src underscore IP. Okay, and let's hit the enter. Okay, and then now you have a new blank line, and let's paste. Okay, hold on, I see somebody got some trouble here. Let me take a look. All right, it says, I do not see the edit option in the 3 dots. I only see the info and open search in the log. So are you in the right, Jatinder? Make sure you're in the Apache in your personal folder. And then also make sure you're on the visitor's location. So again, you're in your Apache folder, your personal folder, you're looking at the Apache overview, and all right, good, glad you got it. All right, so all you did was you place your cursor at the end of the src IP and hold your shift and return and hit the new line and then paste. And you see it says where country name equals United States. Now what you're going to do is go ahead and over to the right there, you're going to click on the enter, the icon with the magnifying glass. That reruns the query with your changes. Okay. And then lastly, above that, you need to update. So now what we've just demonstrated is editing the actual dashboard panel query, the actual code, without creating a new lab search. Okay, and we can zoom in and see that the United States is the only thing that's now displaying. Okay, all right. Hopefully that you all got all of that. All right. All right, moving right along. Good job. Good job, ladies and gentlemen. Now let's go ahead and go to lab number 6. We want to create an alert. Create an alert. We want to be notified when there's issues. Okay, Let's create an email alert. Okay, and in order to do that, we will schedule the search we just created. So let's go back to the CIP, locate your visitors location panel, the one we were just in. You're still in the Apache Overview dashboard. You're still there. You're still in the visitors location panel. You're going back to the 3 dots. And this time, ladies and gentlemen, you're going to click on the phrase open in log search. Okay, so here's that query. Here's the actual query, but we want to create an actual alert. So in order to do that, we need to save it. So let's either go to the save as icon in the top right corner or click on the 3 dots, the more, and choose save as. You want to go all the way down to the bottom left and you should see the phrase schedule this search. A new window pops up and right now it says this schedule is never going to run. Well, we want to click the drop down arrow over to the right and change it from never to, let's do it every 15 minutes. So when we choose every 15 minutes, we now have more choices. Okay. Now let's go ahead and change our time range. Let's do it for about 60 minutes. Look at the alerting type. We said email, but we have different types of alerting capabilities. You can do webhooks, you can do a script action, ServiceNow connection, etc. But we'll leave it as email. Okay, and I'll just put in sumologic.com. Okay, and then down below here, I also want to add a CSV, so I'm turning that on as well. Okay, and if I spell that correctly. And also, ladies and gentlemen, we want to use some variables where it says email subject. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to my lab guide here. And then under number 6 here, under number 6, so lab 6, number 6, 6H is what I want you to look for, 6H. You'll see these variables. Go ahead and highlight those variables. You'll see search name, fire time, and num raw results. Highlight those variables and copy those. And let's go back to our CIP and highlight whatever in search subject and paste. So we're using these variables that's going to give us the name, the time, as well as the number of results. Okay. And then we would save. Of course, that is going to be over in your personal folder as well. Let me demonstrate how you turn the search off. Ladies and gentlemen, watch me, please. I'm going to the visitor's location search, clicking on the 3 dots. I'm going to edit. And then I'll edit this search. Oops, where'd it go here? Sorry. Edit this search, and then all you do to turn off your actual alerts, ladies and gentlemen, is you change the run frequency. Change it to never. That means it'll never run. Okay, or you could have deleted it as well. Okay. All right. Let's go back here and wrap things up here. So good job, ladies and gentlemen. Lab 7 is really all for you all. It's a reference lab, okay? And I'll point out the key factors here. To get help with Sumo Logic, you can check out our release notes, okay? You can search our documentation hub. You can visit the Learn page. You can post a question in our Sumo Logic community. You can try our Slack channel, and you can contact support. Okay, so you leave that as your reference page. And let me talk about just a few wrap-up things here. I want to talk about first the actual syntax of the query. Okay, there is a syntax, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, this is the actual syntax order. So we use metadata to retrieve your data. You can optionally use keywords, it's not mandatory. You're going to parse out, filter out, aggregate, and then format. That's the actual syntax. Okay. Why do we have a syntax? Well, we want to use metadata and keywords to narrow our search results along with parsing. Remember, there's different types of parsing capabilities, built different filtering capabilities, different aggregation, as well as different formatting. So again, that's the method to the madness. All right. We did utilize the log reduce in my demo. I was able to find the needle in the haystack. You can also use another advanced analytic, your log compare. It compares your logs to a prior period in time. So maybe I want to compare my logs, today's logs, to last Tuesday's log, or maybe to yesterday's, to find those anomalies or those patterns. You also have the ability to issue live tails. That's essentially done by an administrator. Essentially, a live tail is a query that's displaying your messages as they're being consumed into Sumo Logic. Okay. All right, questions. All right, so if there aren't any questions, this is also the time for you to go ahead and take your actual exam. Okay. Jatinder, you could use comments. Maybe you use comments in your messages, and we can research that a little bit more as well. All right. So let me talk about, for those of you that want to take the exam now, let's talk about it. Okay. First of all, realize there's 30 questions. It's 60 minutes. I'll be here for the entire hour. Okay. You need a 75 to pass. It's open resources, ladies and gentlemen. That means open slides, open labs, open documentation. Don't forget help.sumologic.com. Okay. Now let's talk about how you take the exam. If you could watch me for a second, please. As I mentioned earlier, ladies and gentlemen, you're in our training environment. We want you to take and get credit for the exam in your company's environment with your credentials. Right now, you're logged in as training analyst, whatever number. So the first thing I want you all to do is go ahead and log out of our training environment. Also, I failed to mention this, ladies and gentlemen, you have access to our training environment until the password changes. The password changes the first Monday of every month. So you have a whole month because we just changed the passwords yesterday. So you can use our, play around in our training environment for an entire month. Okay. Now, once you log out of our training environment, you're going to log into your company's Sumo Logic environment, just like I'm doing. Okay. And you'll notice when I log in, I'm no longer trainer. I'm now Odell Gordon. Okay. Again, to log out, you go to your navigation panel, go to the main menu, click on your name, and then you'll see the phrase sign out. Okay. All right, let's go back. I logged out real quickly. All right, so logging in here to your environment to take the actual exam. All right, so here I am again in my company's environment. I'm gonna close all these extra tabs that I got open. And you can see I'm Odell Gordon. You're gonna go to the certification link. So your home tab, certification link. You're then gonna click on get certified. Once you click on get certified, you'll then go ahead and choose get certified again. So that's this box. Remember, we came here before, we looked at the recordings. This time I'm going to choose get certified. We have just completed the lecture for fundamentals exam. We'll click on the fundamentals. That's what you're going to choose. You're going to register, which is simply a click. and then you'll go ahead and take the exam. Okay. So for example, question number 1, if you are searching for Apache access logs across your production environment, prod with the status code of 404, which of the following queries is best? Okay. So we're looking for 404s. I'm going to choose this radio button. You would go through all the questions. Then you could click next. And then you would click submit. Okay. I did give you one of the answers. I don't know if it went through or not. We have over 1,000 answers or questions in our exam. So if you got that one question that I just did, maybe you got it right. Okay. For those of you that are taking the exam, again, good luck. On behalf of myself and Josh and all the trainers here at Sumo Logic, we thank you for allowing us to present to you. We look forward to you joining us in upcoming training courses. Again, we have a search mastery tomorrow and an administration coming up on Thursday. Good luck. Again, we'll be here to help you for the hour time frame. I'll also post in the chat the link for Uber Eats. So once you pass the exam, again, you can click on the link for Uber Eats, and I'll give you that in 1 second. Again, if you have any problems taking the exam or logging into the exam, let us know in chat, please. Thank you. Again, I'll demonstrate how to take the exam again, if you watch my screen. So again, you're logging into your company's Sumo Logic environment, okay? Once you log into your company's Sumo Logic environment, you're gonna click on the phrase certification. So you're logged in, you should see the 3 links that we saw before under the actual home. Click on certification, click on the Get Certified. Once you click on the Get Certified, then you go to, again, choose Get Certified, and you choose the exam Fundamentals exam. It's usually the first one. You click on that, and you just go ahead and register. Benjamin, you might want to talk to your administrator if you're having issues. You should have received an email that you can click on, and then that email should lead you back. But again, outside of that, That might be an administrator thing on your end. Go ahead. If you don't have to raise your hand, you can just put your questions in chat. Pardon the interruption, just checking to see if you are still taking the exam. If you are taking the exam, continue on. Just let us know which number you're on in the exam. Again, if no one's taking the exam, we're going to close out the session. Okay, no worries, Sanjana. We'll go ahead and stay along. If you need help, just let us know. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, hopefully you've all taken the exam. You can take the exam anytime you like, as many times as you like. Again, remember it's open book. Remember the help.sumologic.com as a resource. Good luck and have a good rest of your day and evenings. We look forward to seeing you in upcoming trainings.